Hello, welcome back to Inside the Data here on Inside the Birds. I'm Geoff Mosher, and that means when we're talking about data and analytics that we got our expert Sam Finkel here as we continue to go through NFL draft prospects position group by position group. And what Sam has done is create these great charts that measure each prospect's athleticism, testing scores there, and of course their college production, put it in a chart and has compared that to players who are picked in the first round, in the top 3 rounds, and then of course just overall players drafted at that position. We've done a slew of positions so far, and this one's going to be an exciting one, Sam, because it's quarterback, and everybody wants to see how the quarterbacks have performed. But is this yet another one that's difficult because of the data availability? And I
Yeah,
don't even know how you couch like quarterbacks running the 40. For half of them, it doesn't matter.
right. It really doesn't. It's hard because there's just so many different like prototypes of quarterback, especially.
Mm-hmm.
If Tom Brady was on this list, he wouldn't be athletically tested well, but obviously the greatest quarterback of all time. I mean, it's hard. It's this one you got to take a little bit with a grain of salt. I mean, the way that the NFL game is moving is you need to be able to run a little bit in the NFL,
Mm-hmm.
but is it a necessity? Not really.
Right.
Um, but is it helpful? Yeah, absolutely. So maybe this is out of all the positions we do, this might be the least useful chart. And I hate to say that, but production is going to matter. I
I
think.
was I was just about to say I do think the useful part of it will be the production over the athleticism. Although there's one thing that really is I don't it's not a surprise to me anymore because and you as well because I think we've done enough homework and either you've watched the tape or the games or talked to people like I have. I think it's hard for people to accept the fact that the son of Deion Sanders is not an elite athlete, at least not at the quarterback position, and that's what he plays. And we're of course talking about Shedeur Sanders. And as I bring up the chart here, which I think is blown up pretty well, you can see he is far below. If the average athletic test, and again, the green lines represent first round picks from the last 4 years, the average athletic score is 81. Sam, is that correct?
It's right around there. Yeah.
Okay, right around 81. And he is hovering at the, I want to say 61, 62 mark there. So I think people have trouble believing that, but hey, it just doesn't, he's not the same kind of athlete that his dad was.
Yeah. But he's still, I mean, there are still tools that will make him an interesting prospect
Mm-hmm.
at the next level.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I mean, certainly. You look at the list, very productive. I mean, he was a productive quarterback at Colorado, and there's been a lot of talk about this class, Sam, like how legit these quarterbacks really are, especially because at least one, two, three will probably go in the first round, right? But not one single prospect here on your first chart compared to first rounders for the past 4 years falls into either the blue chip or the safe category, including CamWard, who's going to be the number one overall pick.
right. And I think that just tells you something about the strength of this class in comparison to the last four classes, right?
Mm-hmm.
I it's not the strongest quarterback class. I will say there you can see in the middle there's a little bit of a cluster, and
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that as the lens widens. But I do think one of those names in that list is going to do be an interesting prospect, can be taken relatively early, maybe a couple of them, but will have a decent NFL career as a starter potentially.
So Cam Smith, I mean, the testing that you're using is from the final year, right? It's not all 4 years of college, correct?
The athletic testing,
Yeah. No, the
yeah,
production. I'm sorry, the production testing.
production is I think their entire career. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So here CamWard starts off at Incarnate Word, right? And then he wins there. And I think he went to Washington after that, right? And then transferred to Miami. Is it Washington State or Washington that he went to in between? I have to go back and check it. It was one of those
Washington
Pacific
State.
Northwest. Washington State, right. And then finally transferred to Miami and really had a great senior season. So I'm wondering in your data that you have on him, why is the production not as good, given how much he's thrown the ball the last few years as some of the others? Is it? What are the metrics? Does interception rate go into that, or turnover rate, or plays?
Yeah, pretty much everything goes into it.
Mhm.
It's you look at Cam Ward's career, like we have the last 3 years of statistics, passed at 65% completion percentage,
Mm-hmm.
11,264 yards, 7.82 yards per attempt, 87 touchdowns, 23 interceptions.
Okay, so the 23 interceptions is probably a little higher than most guys'
Yeah.
career, I would think. 65% completion percentage is good NFL number. Sometimes in college, he's got. I don't know what Dylan Gabriel's is, but I feel like every time I watch the game, he was completing 80% of his passes or more.
He is higher than Cam Ward. He's at 68.27.
Who did you have on who has the highest completion percentage?
The highest completion percentage is Shedeur Sanders
At
70.9.
Yeah, I mean 70.9. Crazy. Now, as Greg Cosell will tell you, and people who watch the tape will tell you, a lot of tunnel screens. Okay, a lot of screens in that offense. So you kind of have to take that with a grain of salt. Okay, where would Cam Ward's yards per attempt average fall among these quarterbacks?
Yeah, so it is one of the lower ones.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, he didn't really have a burner, right? I mean, he was thrown to the tight end Arroyo, who we talked about. He was thrown to Restrepo, who can run, but not like Xavier Worthy, right? He would make a lot of plays out of the pocket, throws on the run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to guess who's the highest yards per attempt?
Highest yard per attempt average here. Well, I would say who's got the burners with him? Boy, this is a tough one. I don't think it's Will Howard. I might be Dylan Gabriel because of that offense was just crazy wide open.
It's not Dylan Gabriel.
Oh, Dart. JaxsonDart?
It is JaxsonDart. Yep.
Okay. All right. And where's Milroe? Milroe puts the ball downfield a lot too.
Second.
Yeah.
9.02 and Dart is 9.46.
All right. So what else jumps out about you about this chart?
Yeah, I mean, it just shows that Cam Ward is head and shoulders above everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
But there's one guy that really, really jumps out on this chart. So much so that you can barely see his name. And that is a guy you already mentioned, Jalen Milroe.
Yeah. Yeah. If you can get as close to a 100 on your testing, your athletic testing, he looks like to be a 99.9 repeating here. He's like right underneath that mark. And it's not like he's that far from the production either. He wasn't a 4-year starter. So, of course, his numbers are going to be a little bit different. I think that also, I think Tyler, this chart isn't friendly to Tyler Shuff from Louisville, right? Because he's not a bad athlete. He's not far, but he's not known for getting out of the pocket and making plays on the run or anything. But was he not? Maybe he was only a 1 or a 2-year starter at Louisville.
I mean, he is 417 for 680, which is one of the lower. It is the second lowest on this chart.
Right.
Milroe was the only one that was lower.
Right. And so that's not a penalty. I mean, this guy, Shuff, went to Oregon first. So he redshirted his first year. He played 5 games as Herbert's backup. My God, how old is he? He played 5 games in 2019 as Herbert's backup? Jeez. Then he went to Texas Tech. He was there for 3 years. Boy, that extra COVID year, man, it gave everybody everything. So he really
born in 1999.
What's that?
He was born in 1999.
Right. Oh my God, that's incredible. In Texas Tech, he broke his leg 4 games into 2023, so he didn't play a whole lot that year. In 2022, only had 5 starts. So really, this chart isn't friendly to him. He's a guy who a lot of teams like and can think late first, maybe second round, but the production is not there because he just didn't play a whole lot of games.
Absolutely.
If you just did senior year production, this chart would look a lot different for him. Or
100%. It would 100% look different for him.
Yeah. And not a bad athlete.
No, surprisingly, actually.
Yeah. Go ahead. Anything else that jumps out besides Jalen Milroe almost being in outer space on athleticism?
Yeah, I really am intrigued with that little cluster, as we'll talk about, with JaxsonDart, Dylan Gabriel, Will Howard, Quinn Ewers, and Seth Hennigan.
Yep. All right. So let's show your charts. So we have the same exact chart, but you've added Eagles quarterbacks into the chart. Jalen Hurts, look at that production because he played quite a bit. See, this is where production helps. Jalen played at Alabama, then he transferred and he started at Oklahoma. So he had at least 2, if not 3 good years of playing a lot of games at a high level.
Right. And
Yeah.
it's very interesting how he profiles in comparison to CamWard.
Mm-hmm.
Makes you think
Yeah.
if Hurts came from a pretty strong quarterback class, one of the stronger ones we've seen in the last couple years.
Mm-hmm.
If he was in this class, he probably, just as a prospect, forgetting everything we know about Jalen Hurts now, he might have been the number 1 quarterback in this class.
Wow, that's really interesting.
I just
Yeah,
think
that's right.
that's kind of a cool little way to look at it.
That's right, because he's right there. He's slightly more productive, slightly less athletic than Cam Ward, who is a very good athlete, Cam Ward. So yeah, really interesting. And then Shedeur gets a little closer to that safe side. No, it's the same. I'm sorry, it's the same chart of comparing past 4 first round picks over the last 4 years.
But you hinted at it perfectly as we go to the
As
next
we
chart.
widen the lens here, now we're talking about top 100 picks. So basically, guys drafted in the first 3 rounds. That makes Cam and Shedeur, obvious in the blue chip for Cam and safe for Shedeur. It's just going to be impossible for Shedeur to get up into the blue chip or gem because he's just not going to test athletically enough.
Yeah. And that's okay. I mean,
Right.
like we said, production seems to be a better indicator of NFL success anyway.
Right.
So I mean, he doesn't need to be Jalen Milroe.
Right. Now JaxsonDart, 2-year starter at least, maybe 3, but 2-year starter. So he's very close to the production mark. Dylan Gabriel started this last year at Oregon. I thought he was the starter for Oklahoma the year before. I'm pretty sure that's the case. So at least a 2-year starter for him. Will Howard was at Kansas State and then Ohio State. Now here's a guy who, you say, you started all those games at Kansas State and Ohio State. Why is your production not there? Well, both of those teams like to run the ball a lot.
Yeah. I actually really like Will Howard.
You do?
I do. And it's like, it hurts my soul to say that because, again, Ohio State, it's tough. I don't think he's going to be a top quarterback in this class. I just think his profile is interesting. He has elite size. I mean, he does run decently well.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think he's a fun backup quarterback. I don't know. He might have a chance to start. Like I said, this cluster, you might see 1 or 2 guys that get a legitimate chance, and he might be one of them just because of the tools that he has. I don't think he's like I said, I'm not that big on this class. I don't think it's that great of a class, but I think he's kind of a fun prospect in this class.
All right. I want to go over to the gems category here because there's this one guy who I just don't see it. Right. And I know they had a great year and they lost in the championship game to Ohio State. Riley Leonard, who has great athleticism, as you can see, he's up around 85 when the average score is 80 here for top 100 picks. Production not there because they barely threw the ball. I mean, they ran the ball as much as any team in the country, and they ran it with him a lot. And I don't know. To me, he's a guy who makes like 5 or 6 sneaky, nice passes a game, but that's kind of it. So I feel like the athleticism obviously is what pushes him into the gems category. But like we said, it's really your production that you're going to value higher in the draft for quarterbacks. And it's just not there, but he's also, he went to Duke and then he went to Notre Dame. These are not, passing factories.
Yeah, it's tough. The athleticism is definitely what's carrying him here. If he didn't have that, I mean, he would be pretty safely in the bust category.
Yeah, he'd be Max Brosmer. That's the Minnesota kid, right? Brosmer.
Yeah.
He was annoying to watch. I mean, I mean that in a good way. I mean, I know he wasn't very productive, but he had a couple of games against Penn State where he made some annoying passes.
I do remember for sure.
Yeah. So Quinn Ewers, let's talk about him from Texas. There was an argument to be made, Sam, that he should have transferred to somewhere else. He had 1 year left. He could have transferred to Oregon, right? And, made some NIL money there. And he decided to go into the NFL draft, but he falls below the athleticism and falls. Why does he fall below the production for as much as he played at Texas?
So if you look at his stats,
I'm going to guess his yards per attempt average is not great.
Yeah, it's not. It's at 8.03, but I mean, he also only had, not that many yards. He only had 1,100 yards. I'm sorry. He had 9,000 yards compared to some of these other guys who are in the 10,000s and the 11,000. Sorry, the 1,100 number is his attempts.
Right.
On that. He was 733 out of 1134 for a completion percentage of 64.64. He threw 67 touchdowns and 24 interceptions.
That's a high number of interceptions. And 67 touchdowns seems large, but he started a ton of games. He played at Texas. They were great the years he was there. I don't know. I thought he would have been closer to the production mark, but so I'm sure his interception percentage is pretty high compared to some of the others.
Yeah, and I mean, if we're just talking about that, it's super interesting because Shedeur Sanders is at 104 touchdowns to 19 interceptions. By far the best touchdown to interception ratio out of all the guys.
What's Gabriel at?
Gabriel is 85 touchdowns, 18 interceptions.
Yeah, I figured he would have a low interception mark. Yeah. So that shows you what sort of Quinn Ewers is. I think
I agree with you.
Prospect. Yeah,
he should have gone back to school. I think he would have only helped himself going back.
Sky Motor Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people all over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schulter makes sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
Do you have any intrigue at all by Kyle McCord? Again, who cares about the athletic testing? We know he's not a guy who runs around. He's going to stay in the pocket. He's going to distribute the ball. What's holding him back? Because he just led the NCAA in passing, if I'm not mistaken, in his final year at Syracuse. Yeah. So what holds him back in the production standpoint?
Yeah, again, his yards are not anything too special in terms of aggregate.
Right.
It's 8,000 yards, 59 touchdowns, 18 interceptions. So relatively, when we were talking about 23 interceptions for CamWard, he had 87 touchdowns.
Right.
So 59 to 18 is a much worse, ratio between the two.
He does feel like another guy that if you, like with Tyler Shuffler, if you just did senior year, that production probably moves to the right a lot more.
Yeah, 100%. And look, I think McCord got a raw deal out of Ohio State. I'm not exactly sure what happened. There's been conflicting reports. But I'd like to see him be successful. I mean, he's a local guy, so it'd be cool to see.
Absolutely. All right, let us go on to who else is a local? Isn't there another guy? Oh, Will Howard's a local guy, right?
I think so, yeah.
The guy who replaced Kyle McCord at Ohio State. Will Howard is a Philadelphia guy. Yeah.
Yeah, you got that's Ohio State's factory right there, right? Coming from local guys, I guess, Pennsylvania.
There you go. Same chart here. Top 100 picks at quarterback with Eagles guys in. It's funny. Tanner McKee is just, again, he's not going to test well athletically. He has a strong arm, but he's not going to test well athletically. And I think he only started 1 year at Stanford. If I'm not mistaken, he had an injury. So I don't think he had that many starts at Stanford. But he's probably going to squarely be in this lower left quadrant the whole time. But this is an example of a guy who has more talent than either the athletic testing or the production would lead you on to believe.
Yeah, and McKee is he was a fun prospect, but again, this chart is not super helpful in predicting his success.
I would just die if Max Brosmer winds up being sort of like Tanner McKee-ish, gets into a camp and makes some plays like he did against Penn State, and then you're like, oh man, this guy's actually something.
Our luck is he'll start against the Eagles from one game when the quarterback's hurt and go off.
Yeah, he'll have a Joe Webb type game.
Exactly.
All right. I just made a lot of Eagles fans shudder when I said Joe. All right. This is now the chart. The red lines reflect all quarterbacks drafted over the last 4 years. So if you're drafting CamWard, you're in good hands compared to anybody drafted. Shedeur Sanders, JaxsonDart gets into the safe category. Dylan Gabriel, safe category. Milroe, very, very close to it. Will Howard, close enough to it. And that really, not much movement for anybody else. Hold on one second. I'm just going to scroll up. I feel like the chart movement in general, not that big of a deal. So you're talking about an average production score of 77 compared to the top. This one was like 83. I guess that's somewhat significant. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
we've got a lot of guys in the lower left quadrant.
Yeah, I think that just shows you this is not a strong quarterback class.
Yeah, absolutely. Brady Cook is a what? Where did he go? I almost got him confused with Brady Quinn because he's right. He's Brady lumped in with Riley Leonard. I'm thinking like Notre Dame quarterbacks.
Missouri.
Right.
Luther Burden guy. Threw to him.
Burden guy. That helps him with his production. Graham Mertz wasn't a huge fan of him at Wisconsin, and then he transferred to where was he? NC
Florida.
State or where was he? Florida, that's right.
And then he lost the job to Lagway.
Right. So this chart's not kind to him, although it does put him in the gym, but only because he's a pretty good athlete by comparison, which I don't know. If you watched Graham Mertz play at Wisconsin, I don't think anything jumped out as like ridiculously good athlete. It might be his measurements, right? He's got some pretty good size, if I'm not mistaken.
Let's take a look at that really quick. He is 6'3", 212.
Yeah, not bad.
31 1/4 arm and 9 3/4 hand.
Yeah. Boy, his athletics score at the combine was pretty high.
Yep.
Did I miss something? Did he run a fast 40 or something like that?
I don't even
Did
know.
He do a broad jump? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I'm not entirely. I don't see his numbers even on here.
6'3", 212 is good, but that's not like 6'6", 220. It's not like Donovan McNabb, like 6'5", 240.
Yeah,
right?
It's interesting. Graham Mertz.
I'm fascinated by this. I'm like, I've watched this kid play.
I wonder if he did it at his pro day.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I look that up, all I'm getting is some of the people he threw to, like DK.
Right. All right. Well,
yeah, I don't see that much on it, so it just is a projection.
He did have an ACL tear in 2024, so he's coming back from that injury.
And apparently a broken collarbone and a concussion.
Oh, well, that's a little rough.
Yeah, he hasn't had the best luck in terms of injury, it looks like.
Yeah, I think I'm fascinated at this point about what happens with Riley Leonard because of the great athletic testing and teams' willingness to, in the later rounds, take advantage. Again, that's not as big for quarterback, but when you start throwing darts on day 3, maybe day 2, I don't know. Does he make it into the 3rd round just because he's a quarterback who played at a high-level institution?
Oh, sorry, you're still talking about Mertz?
Yeah, no, now I'm back stuck on Riley Leonard and where he's going to go.
I don't know. He's probably going to get drafted, but it'll probably be like 6th or 7th round.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to mention the Curtis Rourke kid. He's a pretty good athlete as well. This is the kid who transferred to Illinois with the coach who did a great job. I'm sorry, Indiana. Indiana, the coach, Kurt Signetti, right?
Yep.
They came together from JMU, if I'm not mistaken.
You are not mistaken.
And accomplished far more than I think anybody ever would have thought. And Rourke had a pretty good senior year.
Yeah, it was a fun story to follow, except for when they were saying that Indiana deserved to be higher ranked than Penn State. But
that was rough. All right, the final chart has the Eagles quarterbacks in it. And DTR falling now into the gem category because of the great athleticism that he had. He was, I don't remember how many years he started for Chip at UCLA. I thought it was like I thought it was 2, might have just been 1, but he was a, fairly productive college quarterback. But obviously his testing and his ability to make things magic out of the pocket helped him there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. So here we have our gem category: CamWard, Jalen Milroe, Brady Cook, Riley Leonard, Graham Mertz, Good, Shedeur Sanders. Anything else jumping out at you on this chart?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we talked
Funny
about.
because your guy Will Howard's in the avoid category. I'm just letting you know.
Listen, I know. I just think he's interesting. That's all. I don't. I also qualified and said probably backup, but I do think he's still interesting.
You know what? I didn't mention this. I forgot. At the Senior Bowl, I was able to. I'm pretty sure I saw Seth Hennigan. I thought I had a pretty strong arm. Interesting kid.
Yeah.
I mean, he's obviously in the avoid category, but Memphis had a decent season.
Yeah. Again, these avoids are not great for quarterbacks.
Right.
In fact, like I do love that somebody like requested where the Pro Bowl guys would be in comparison, and I think this one would be a kind of a fun one to see where they fit. And I don't know, that I'll probably have something like that up soon when this video is posted. I'll have something like that up just so you can see it's not the end all be all.
I will say this about Shedeur Sanders, and you already made this point, but 104 touchdowns to 19 interceptions is one hell of an accomplishment. That's really good. That's very, very good.
Yeah,
And
he's an interesting prospect. He is an interesting prospect. So
he's basically tied for second on attempts. So, I mean, he's thrown the ball quite a bit. You can't deny the kind of college career he had, and the fact that he and Travis really transformed that school. That school had won one game the year before he and Coach Prime and he and Dion and Travis Hunter got there, and they elevated the program. It's still, I feel like it got a lot more national attention than it deserved for what it is, but certainly deserved attention for the way that they picked up that program. So a lot of potential.
I'm excited to see it keep going too. I think I like what Coach Prime is doing, and I'm excited to see.
All right, great stuff. That is going to close it off on the quarterbacks. Great work again, Sam. For Sam Finkel, I'm Geoff Mosher. You have been watching Inside the Data on Inside the Birds.